Hello and welcome to our second book club. And here we are with Cathryn Mahoney. I'm absolutely delighted to have your company, Cathryn. And we're talking about Cathryn's beautiful book, ch-illia. Look at that. I absolutely adore the cover of this book. And I'm so excited that Cathryn's with us today. So welcome, Cathryn. One of the things I absolutely love is the title. And in the 24th, do you call them a stanza or do you call them a chapter? Because there are a lot of chapters.
Yeah.
Okay. It's called Origins. For several months, Janika visited me once a week to tell me my origin story. So we're sort of quite a way through the book now, aren't we? I discovered my first home planet was called ch-illia. I love that. I love the word. But it had been destroyed by its own sun. I then learned that my original name was ch-illia. The tribe calls me White Bird or Eyes in the Sky. I nearly said Eyes in the Sky then. There's a film called that or something like that. So sorry, let me repeat myself. The tribe calls me White Bird or Eyes in Sky, but ancient ones call me Unch. My sound resonance, I absolutely love that. I mean, you can, when you say Unch, you can feel the vibrational frequency of it in your chest. And I know from my own work that each word has its own vibrational frequency that can make you feel good or bad. It can heal or hurt, like all words. So unch is your sound resonance, followed by illia. Am I saying it right? Illia? My personal expression. Tell me more about your sound resonance because it's just beautiful. Unch.
Yeah. It took a while for me to learn that, and it was something that sort of the sound, I had to become accustomed to it again. And when it was first explained to me, the unch, I felt it, like you said, really deep in my chest. And it's like that centering, and it's like this is what I'm about. It's like that vibration, because a lot of the work I do is on sound vibration. So where I come from, it's a light being. It was a light being planet, and we traveled through space to many places, which is another story, like in the origin story, where we connected with other light being planets and organic planets like Earth. So that light being, it's like the vibration is on the light, but if you think of like the light within the rainbow, but there's a lot more depth to light. There's a lot more vibration. It's very hard to explain because it's like the experience of it will be alien to a lot of people on Earth. But for me, it's like if you imagine heaven, if you have that experience of, some people have had out of body experiences or have imagination or dreams about what heaven would be like, and it's like all the colors and all the sounds are a lot brighter and a lot more depth to it. So it's like that. It's like there's so many more like sounds that we may not even hear, humans may not even hear. It's like I've experienced almost like a sound coming out of my ear when I've communicated with birds. I've heard sounds like dolphin sounds, like when I connect with Older One and some of the ancients. They all have different sounds to them, and it depends where they are on their evolution journey, I suppose. How we describe with like the higher vibrational sounds. If the more advanced souls, it's taken me a while to embrace being ch-illia, because I've lived this. The first part of the book is about my human experience of being a child and wanting to be invisible. So there's this part of me that is sort of dying to get out, and hasn't expressed itself. So even embracing that myself is difficult. and saying who I am, because I am an ancient being myself. And so I am connecting more and more with ancient ones. I'm being reintroduced to them. So it's like getting used to those sounds myself. And the first part is embracing that within myself. And it's like that power of that sound. Even saying it now, there's a lot more depth to that sound that I can actually express myself. And I know as time goes on, I will express it in quite a different way to how it is now, done in the human way. If that makes sense, I don't know.
Definitely. And I know with my husband's got earphones that really hear sound. The ones I've got are just cheap and they hear what we're hearing, really. But with specialist equipment, you can hear really intense layers of sound. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So anybody
yeah,
into
definitely.
music, I mean, fully into music, will understand that the layers. And if you think of a score from an orchestra, it's got all of the layers of music in there. So it's richer, it's fuller. And I think that's what you're saying, that
Yeah,
each vibration, each letter has a vibration of its own. The way you say it, and I said more unch and you might say more unch. Both of those aren't incorrect. It's just that vibrates with me and yours is yours. And I think I think it's really exciting, this, and it is beyond a lot of people's understanding. And I think there isn't a doubt about that. But when you read through the book, it's like, wow, this is amazing. And even if you as a reader are going to say, this does not sound like something I'd understand or want to read, I can honestly say you probably would enjoy it, because I mean, I certainly loved it, and it kept me going for quite a while because there's a lot of words in here. But it's in these small little chapters. So it meant that I could sort of, before going to sleep, just read one and find out more about you. But you introduced me to ideas and thoughts and experiences beyond the human existence. And of course, we are body, we're mind, and we're spirit, and our minds go into all sorts of wild places. Our spirits, not religion here, this is just our spirit. That makes, when we die, what's left is a physical body that looks nothing like us. And the reason for that is because our spirit is no longer there. And so, this really is so spiritual in that sense of the word. It's about this power. That, tell me a little bit, or tell everybody, because I know a bit more, I've read it. So tell me more about the tribes, because you've mentioned that you're from a different place and you've talked about tribes a lot in here. For the people who have no idea what that means, can you just give a bit of an explanation? Because I
yeah,
know they're going to love this book. Anybody would. It make a great film.
yeah. Tribe can be quite a catch-all term. A lot of people say, well, I found my tribe. You find your soul tribe, people that you feel are like-minded to you. But this is an actual tribe. And what I soon learned is that it's quite complicated. So I'll start from the beginning of how I discovered it. And the first experience that I had, I didn't remember that earlier experience that we spoke about, where our mums went off to the Yorkshire Dales. Not till, obviously, I've been told later on. But my first experience was through Mike. Me and Mike have both been together through many lifetimes. And we sort of rediscovered ourselves and let each other go, and then rediscovered ourselves in this lifetime. But once we did come together in 2010, 11, it was 2011, it was on my 50th birthday. I had an experience with him where, when he was asleep, this being spoke through him, and I thought it was Archangel Michael, because I was into angels at the time. I was just really opening up to things like that. And talking about vibration again, it was such a high energy, you know, I was sure it was an angelic being. But he spoke in a funny language. So I couldn't make any sense of it. And then he started speaking in what I call Old English. Well, they use Old English to communicate with us. So the funny language was the native language from this tribe, who are predominantly Blackfoot. But there is other tribal members among them as well now. And the first book I wrote when we went to America was discovering the origins of this tribe, which if we have time, I'll give a little bit of overview of. But anyway, I met this man and I called him Michael because I thought he was Archangel Michael, but he was actually a warrior of the tribe, quite high up in the tribe. And he spoke to me about a baby I didn't have. It was actually a termination I had when I was 18, 19. And I gave myself a really hard time about letting that baby go. So it took me a long time to grieve and let go of the guilt. And he told me I had to let go because he said that child that wasn't born, it was only about 12 weeks anyway when I terminated. So it wasn't even a child. But he said he came into that fetus as a way of introduction. So it was the first introduction to the tribe. So it was their essence really was brought for me to start to remember them.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, Mike didn't remember that experience. I told him about it when he woke up. And that's how it happened to begin with, is that I would have these visitations, so to speak, through Mike in his sleep. So, but they would speak to me through his voice. And, you know, I could tell there was different mannerisms. They would start speaking in the native language, which I couldn't understand with this human form, but apparently I speak it when I'm with them. But Mike would come out with this language and then it would change to Old English. So he was the first one. And then the next one who came was Shanika. She's actually the leader of the tribe now, because there's a female oriented approach to the tribe, matriarchal. So she was the first one, and then she became the term we gave her was a gatekeeper. So if anybody else came, they had to come through her. She had to give permission. Because in the book, there's a couple of stories about some scary experiences of a wild child. And also there was a man, one of the warriors tried to come through, Mike. So what they do, we call it merging. We gave it a term called episodic epithelial symbiosis, which means they come through briefly into his body. They use his body to communicate with me. So they use his voice, they use physically his body. So I could be out having a walk with Mike and then one of them will just slip in and use his body. So they're a light being who's living a life in the tribe, which is in Canada now. They live in a cave in Canada. But this is where it gets more complicated, because when we first met them, they're in the 1700s. Now they're in the 1800s, mid to late 1800s. And they're moving forward in time, so they're going to merge with us when we're at our retreat, where they're going to come there and be at the retreat in our time. That is the plan. But they have travelled back and forwards in time. So what they are is star beings.
Right, yeah.
The main cohort of the tribe are star beings who inhabit native bodies on a more permanent basis. So it may seem like they've taken over the body, but it's a mutual thing where they go to tribal members who have illness. There might be near to end of life. And so they help to restore them by them merging with them on a more permanent basis. But then they take on the persona. So when they come into Mike's body, they're a star being within a native body. And both aspects come within to Mike. So when I talked to Janika, when she was first came, most of them are like quite young when they first come, mostly female as well, which is strange when they come into Mike's body. Because you start seeing the female aspect, a childlike persona as well. So when they first came, it was Shanika and then another young girl called ch-illia. They were very feminine and very childlike. And I used to have to keep check of them because we might be out walking. Well, they used to come when we had a meal in a public place.
Oh,
So I would have to keep check on them. But just it only took them matters of days and weeks to learn our language, to learn to be Maig. So they
yeah.
could pretend to be Maig when a waiter came to the table. No one would know any difference. So the stories in the book are a lot about some of the characters that started to introduce themselves to me. But the next one who came after Janika was Old One. An old one is like my father, really. He's my father figure. He was the one that brought me and Mike and another character I talk about quite a lot, Jamal. He was the one that brought us on the journey and brought us to the earth. And some of the others have come along the way. So our original home planet, even though it wasn't where we first started, we call it the original home planet, Escalacia, which was destroyed by its sun. Then we were taken on a journey, which is another story in itself that I began writing with Janika a few years back. And that talks about our origins, traveling through space and different planets that we went to and people we helped. And I was going to say wars. There weren't wars, but skirmishes that we got into with some other beings from other planets. One in particular that have constantly plagued us on journeys. So we talk about journeys on what you would class as spaceships, really, that brought us to Earth eventually, and arriving at Earth at the beginning of Earth time. So we actually witnessed Earth in its infancy and have been in lifetimes then from ancient Egypt, going back and forwards in time, first starting in North Yorkshire, actually.
Really?
In 745. It's either 745 or 754, where I started off in North Yorkshire and then went back to ancient Egypt and have been back and forwards in various times, living different lives, either merging or living existences as different people, some royalty, some paupers, often witches, especially in North Yorkshire, which is places that we've revisited down south. Been to Glastonbury, Dorset, been up to Scotland, an existence I had up there, which is a whole other story.
And all of those journeys, well, not all of them, but many of these sort of explorative journeys, like through America and Canada and North Yorkshire and all of the standing stones. I mean, one of the things that fascinates me, I know this isn't going to be everybody's understanding, but hey, what I remember saying to you after I'd first read the book was, even for those who don't believe any of this, it's so brilliant that it's worth reading. You don't have to believe it. It's a choice, isn't it, with everything? And it's like the film that we're going to, that I will be watching, it's a film. But I know for myself that there are many multidimensional levels to life, and it's not linear, and that time-space reality is nothing like we imagine. And I don't understand it. I just know that it's far more than what I perceive it to be. So I'm not a scientist in that way, so I can't explain it. But scientists more and more are able to talk about this, about the quantum field and words that I don't fully comprehend, so wouldn't pretend to. So one of the things you do, which I just have a real sense is such a powerful thing, and this might be related to the next step of your journey, the next book in a sense, is the retreat, is that you go to these standing stones and these wonderful places, and you speak to tribal people from star seeds, different star people. You talk about the Blackfoot tribe, and are they actually physically, in human terms, still present in cave dwellings in Canada, or is that a historical, what humans would consider historical?
Yeah, it would be classed. Yeah, it would be classed as historical because the first journey that we had to America, that was the 6-week journey following in the footsteps of the tribe.
Yeah.
So that was our first understanding of when they came to the landed at Roanoke Island at North Carolina in 15, can't remember the rest, the 1500s. I've got it there, but it'll take time finding it.
Don't worry.
So yeah, they did a 200-year journey really from the 1500s to the 1700s, and that took them up to Alberta, and they ended up in this cave, which is where they still are when we connect with them.
Yeah.
But they're now in about the mid 1800s where they are now, because there is what they class as white people, settlers, soldiers around, and they're witnessing a lot of things that have happened. So we followed this journey because what they did when they came, Old One and some of the others came and connected with a tribe on Roanoke Island while I was probably here doing what I was doing here at that time. So we tend to be in different places. So I might be doing something. Me and Mike haven't always been together in lifetimes. So he might have been off doing something else. But in a lot of the lifetimes, he was here helping me. Often Jamel, I would call, is like a big brother, really. He always looked after both of us, and he visited Mike when he was a very small child in his childhood, in his lifetime. So that he could connect in that way. But Old One is sort of moved around quite a lot, and some of the others have as well. So they connected with this early tribe in Roanoke Island in the 1500s, and then did this 200-year journey and had other tribes connecting with them. And it wasn't until I got to Montana that I connected more with the Blackfoot tribe. And my guide, who's with me all the time, Dule, he's a big Blackfoot warrior. And quite a few of them are, because they're really, I can't find the right word of describing them, but they know how to look after themselves, let's say. So they were a big part of the tribe when they moved then from Montana on the final bit of the journey up into Canada. So they're quite a bit of a mix, but like we say, we like to say they're mainly Blackfoot. So we followed that first journey in America in 2018. We followed their journey from Roanoke Island across many of the states of America, touching base with some of the places where they'd been, predominantly where they'd either mixed with other tribes, trying to help sort out difficulties. So it was always peace talks that were involved in trying to sort out difficulties between tribes, or between tribal people and Europeans who obviously taken over the tribal lands. So we went to lots of places where there were battles and where there was land grabs, so to speak, and there's lots of loss of life. There was one place that we went to where there was some grey beings, the aliens, the greys, and there's many types of greys, and they're not around now, even though some people might say that they are. But one of this grey race of beings are actually attacking this village. So we got involved there. So we actually went to see where that happened, to this town. And we were shown where there was a portal where Old One came through. And then from there, and in our second journey in America, we were introduced to lots of mountains, stones, water, streams, rivers, lakes, where there were meetings for peace talks. But the stones, the mountains were places that Old One uses as portals.
Right. Okay.
So that he comes through those places. So I was introduced where he had meetings with other ancient ones, coming from off, coming off world. And over time, we've learned about this 32 races of ancient beings from different planets that are all in this council that are helping Earth. And that's what I'm going to be writing in the next book, their stories. So a lot of the time it's been introductions first, understanding the journey that the tribe took and why they took it. Being introduced to places where we were as well. So in some of the areas, I was a young child. and Mike was there, and some of them as well, where we were on part of the journey, and we knew some of the tribal people. So I've written some of the stories in here about some of those chiefs that we connected with and who we were reintroduced to. So I was having conversations with these tribes who were from a different time. So there was one journey where I was introduced to this Nez Perce tribal chief. Was it Nez Perce? I can't remember. I think it all gets a bit muddled up who's who. But yeah, I was introduced to him, and Mike and Dooley saw this tribe appear in front of us. Now, I don't see them, I just sense them. So Mike sees them. So he saw this scary tribe appear and wanted to speak to me on my own. And Mike didn't want me to go up on my own, but the chief insisted. But I sensed him, and I sensed them all around me. And I went, and I just felt so peaceful and calm. And I went and spoke to this chief. I had a conversation with him, even though I couldn't see him. But this is where the trust comes in, and knowing that what I'm doing is right, because I feel these shifts in me. And even though I'm having conversations, often Mike helps with the communication. But I'm having conversations, and I know I'm talking to them in their language, but I'm speaking English. But I'm talking to them in their language. So I'm like shifting into their time and talking to them, having that conversation and coming out again. So, but I don't know at the time exactly what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. And I'm trusting Mike, I'm trusting Julie as our guide, as a go-between to make this happen.
And that's what when you're in, say, by some standing stones and tribal people join you and you talk to them, you teach them. What language are you speaking then? Are you speaking English, but they can all understand it in their own languages? Is that right?
It sort of gets translated. Later on in the book, I write about a particular standing stone I go up to in North Yorkshire. And there's been various dates over the last few years that we've gone up there. And we speak to people up there. I'm like, I have this stone, it's like a pulpit, and I'm talking to these people. Again, I don't see them, but Mike sees them and he takes questions from them. But they're from different times in our history in England. Then, because we've traveled to America, there's some of the tribal peoples come. There's some of the ancient ones there from different planets. There's some beings, different types of beings from lots of different planets come, and they all get brought through the ancient ones, arrange it, and they all bring them to this one place where we meet. And so there's so many different languages, much different understanding, but I talk to them in our language, in English, and it gets all translated and everybody understands. Some see each other. Some see me as I am now. Some see me as I was in a different time. Some see me as a light being, just see me as a beam of light. But the ancient ones help it all to be translated. We do meditations. We do question and answers. Mike's taking questions from people in the audience. They're all spread out around all these stones around the moor and asking questions, and I'm answering the questions. So, like I said, there's a chapter in this book that's all about that. And the last time we did that was on the 8th of December, which was very significant. And if you read the book, you'll understand why it was significant. And that is meant to be the last time that we have a meeting there, because we plan that they're going to come to us in our retreat. Next time that we meet. And each time there's been more and more people. So we've had up to 800 and odd of them coming, and they're all different. There was one film I thought about to describe it, but it's an old film. And it was in a bar. I can't even remember the name of the film. I don't know, it was Star Wars or something. But there was a bar scene where the human characters go into this bar, and there's all these different alien races, and it's like some are like animals, some are like creatures, and some are humanoid. And that's the only way I can describe it. There's so many like humanoid from different planets, humanoid type people. But there's then some are like, people talk about like dragon, like serpent type or insect type of beings. So there's so many different ones, like the greys, there's so many different races of grey beings. Those are the ones that we tend to think of, or the ones with the big eyes.
Yeah.
But there's just so many, just like there's so many different types of people on Earth. And to me, it's normal now. It's like you see people like in your own town are from so many different countries, so many different races within your own town, so many different colours, different sizes. It's just the same thing.
Absolutely.
But some are made up of light, some are a bit more crystalline, some are, and many are humanoid.
Yeah.
And they're all come for the same reason, and it's about bringing peace to the earth and peace to other planets as well.
Absolutely. So when you're teaching light beings, I'm going to use that as a broad term because these people are not in the physical in that moment that we as in the human eyes would be able to see. It would only be with our spiritual eyes we could sense or hear or see them. So when you're doing that, they must be there for a reason that is for all of humanity somehow. And I see that when we have those energies, because everybody has a vibrational frequency, and if it's for love and it's positive, and it has power, and you've got 800 people from different star beings, if you like, 800, then that is going to impact the earth. It's going to change some vibration here, especially here in North Yorkshire where we both live. And the standing stones are just very powerful areas anyway. And I think even people without a bent in this direction find that fascinating and interesting. And there's a curiosity that goes with it, which when we're curious changes things for us. So yeah, I lose my track because I find it so fascinating. So you're bringing people, or were up until the 8th of December, bringing people to our human world that is going to impact us and move us forward because we need this level of support. And there are many people who speak very openly about these worlds and light language and all of that. So even for those who don't understand it, the book is well worth reading. You will love it. If you love film, you'll love this. And if you are a spiritual being and you understand this at a deeper vibrational level, then you're going to be absolutely blown away by it as well. The epilogue. Can I read a little bit of your epilogue? When can I return to the stars? You asked the old one. When your work here is done. You've waited so long for your retreat, it's only a step away. Embrace the waiting and consolidate your learning. Opportunities flow towards you. Shine your light into the world without expectation. Vision your new home and land as you have seen it from the air. And I think that epilogue is fit for every human being on this planet, isn't it?
Yeah.
As you take the veil off our eyes and start to see that we are so multidimensional, irrespective of any religious belief, that we are multidimensional, means that we really can only leave when our work is done. And I don't know if you know the book Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, do you?
No, I haven't read it. I've heard of it, but I've not read it.
I mean, that's certainly for our listeners here, that is a really good intro into understanding that this world is not quite as we see it.
Yeah.
And I think that if you are a bit confused, that might be a really straightforward way. Michael Newton was pragmatic, hypnotherapist, psychologist, and he was noticing as he took people into trance that they were starting to tell stories of live before life. And it's not regression in the same way. I don't think it's something slightly different. But it really does. It certainly opened my eyes, and it's a book that I give to people who are grieving, or recommend that they buy if they're grieving. I bought so many, I just now recommend it. I should have been an affiliate or something. So, you know, this book, this beautiful book, is going to open your eyes to the fact that there's much more going on. And if you ever want to connect with Cathryn, then I'm going to put her details below. We're looking forward to your next book. I know there's so much more you could have said, but you know, for time purposes, I think we're going to leave this here. I loved it, and I think that people will love it. And I look forward to your retreats, and we'll keep your eyes on that. So join us in our tribe, because we have a human tribe, people of Earth tribe, if you like, and you'd be very welcome, and meet with us at the Circle of Light, which is a very sensible, simple place. It's where you can just be at peace. And when I said unch, and I can feel it here, Circle of Light's the same. You feel it here, and you go away lifted, and you get to know yourself a little bit more each time, I think. So final words, Cathryn.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Susie. And I can vouch for the Circle of Light. It's a lovely place to be. Yeah, I think it was just the first part of the book is a lot about my childhood, my difficulties in childhood. I just wanted to get that across, because I don't want that to be a stumbling block for people to think, oh, well, it's just talking about how difficult she found it growing up and the difficulties they had in relationships. But that's my grounding, and I want to show how difficult it's been for me being in this life, and a lot of it's my search for belonging. And it wasn't until I met Mike, and that was difficult in itself, as getting together. So there's a bit of a love story in it as well.
There is, yes.
So, yeah, I just wanted to get that across. It's a search for belonging, and then it's that awestruck stuff when I've started to learn, and I've had to learn in a piecemeal where, you know, I talk about the pieces of the jigsaw. You know, I've been given little bits here and there, like scattering the seeds, for me to be able to take hold of it and totally trust what I'm being told by my tribe, and not discount it, because I can be a healthy skeptic, and that's important. Because I don't believe everything that I'm told, and I've researched a lot of things. I've asked lots of questions. So it's important that I come from a humble, grounded place to understand who I am. And I do find it difficult to talk about myself, put it out there, but I know I have to, because it's important. I'm here to do that job of being a light bearer and being a spokesperson for the tribe and for the ancient ones. So, you know, this is the lifetime that I'm here to do that and to raise awareness. So thank you again, Susie, for making it possible for me, for you to be the first person for me to share this with.
and the world. Cathryn, so thank you so much, and thank you everybody for being here. This will close. There will be a short meditation at the end of this video, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon, Cathryn, at the next Circle of Light. Take good care. Thank you. Right.
As you listen to the sound of those birds, imagine being here with me now. I'm sat on a bench in a small woodland by a pond, the sun sparkling like diamonds on the water's surface. Those birds all vying for attention. Enjoying a warm, sunny spring morning. Robin up in a branch. Such a lovely sound. Around me are fir trees, there's birch trees and trees with little catkins on. The robin's coming closer. There's been a heavy frost, so there's still patches of ice around. If I'm sat in the warmth of the sun, just warming my body after being in a shaded area, standing looking at the view over the hillside. There's patches of heather and bracken close by, and the grass is starting to recover from the winter snows and ice. There's new growth all around, light green shoots. So take a few deep breaths, feel the stillness. There's only me and the birds, and you joining us in stillness, feeling the calmness as you imagine being here. The calmness of being alone with the birds, the quietness of natural life around, just a gentle breeze in the trees. So thank you for joining me on this peaceful retreat, on the gentle walk I've taken in this woodland, and now resting by the water's edge. Take a moment longer to enjoy this. You can hear the different birds. Just a breeze blowing around us. Knowing that wherever you find yourself in this moment, whether it's sitting at home, just allow your imagination to take you to this peaceful place whenever you choose. Perhaps if you listen to this recording again, it can help you to find peace within, stillness. Thank you for joining me.